It starts with $4.99, nothing more than a small choice in March 2023, inside a quiet store in Houston, Texas. Then it grows into $480, then $12,500, then $8,200. Numbers that stop feeling like money and start feeling like distance from who you used to be. You move from shelves to systems, from crowds to isolation, from unnoticed moments to recorded evidence. Cameras, data logs, transaction trails, all building something you never see forming. There is no single breaking point, only escalation. And by the time it reaches a knock on your door in April 2024, everything has already been decided. You remember the exact moment it started on a dull afternoon in March 2023, when the air inside a small store in Houston, Texas felt too normal to matter. And that is where your story quietly slips into. Level 1, Petty Thief. You are Ethan Carter, just another face in a place that sees thousands every week. Invisible in the way it feels almost comforting. You walk past shelves stacked with things no one would miss. Or at least that is what you tell yourself, as your fingers hover over a cheap pack priced at $4.99. The cameras are there, you know that. Small black domes fixed into the ceiling, but they feel distant, like something meant for someone else. You take a breath, shallow and controlled, and slide the item into your jacket with a motion so small it barely registers in your own mind. Nothing happens, no alarm, no voice calling out, just the low hum of fluorescent lights and the sound of a cashier scanning someone else's groceries. You pay for a drink, $1.50, just enough to look ordinary, just enough to convince yourself you are still on the right side of something. As you step outside into the fading light, the world does not change, and that is what unsettles you the most. You expected a shift, a consequence, something to mark the line you just crossed, but there is only silence and the distant noise of traffic. What you do not see is the quiet attention, the way loss prevention logs patterns, the way faces get remembered long before anyone speaks up. In the days that follow, the memory does not fade, it sharpens, turning into something colder, something that whispers how easy it was. You tell yourself it was nothing, just a one-time mistake, but the truth sits heavier than that, because now you know how little it takes. And somewhere between that thought and the next time you walk through those automatic doors, the line you crossed starts to disappear entirely. It does not feel like a choice anymore when you step back into the system months later. In June 2023, already thinking 2 steps ahead, already moving faster, and that is how you slide into level 2. Organized retail thief. You are still Ethan Carter, but now you are not alone, standing beside Marcus Lee and Dylan Brooks in a crowded store in Los Angeles, California, blending into noise and motion like you belong there. You do not look at the cheap items anymore. Your eyes go straight to racks and shelves marked above $200, things that can be turned into cash within hours online. The plan is simple. No words spoken once you are inside, just timing and small signals that feel almost natural now. You notice the cameras more clearly this time, but instead of fear, there is calculation, angles, blind spots, moments where attention drifts. One of you distracts, one of you moves, and you feel the same quiet rush as before, only sharper, more controlled, more dangerous in how normal it feels. You walk out with nothing in your hands again, paying for something small, $2.25, a receipt that says you were just another customer passing through. Later that night, the items appear online, listed under a different name, priced just low enough to sell fast, turning into $480 by morning. It feels efficient, almost like work, almost like something you could justify if you avoid thinking too hard. What you do not see is the pattern forming, the same faces, the same movements, the same stores flagged across reports that no one tells you about. Marcus Lee starts asking questions, quiet ones about risk, about how long this can last, but you brush it off because nothing has gone wrong yet. The silence after each run becomes its own kind of proof, a false confirmation that you are still in control. But control is already slipping, not in a dramatic way, just in small details that stack up without warning. And the next move you agree to make is bigger than anything before, the kind that does not disappear quietly when it is over. You tell yourself it is just another step when the plan comes together in September 2023. But the scale is different now, heavier, harder to ignore. And that is when you cross into level 3, Grand Theft Operator. You are still Ethan Carter, but the name feels thinner, like something that no longer fully belongs to you as you stand in a dim parking structure in Phoenix, Arizona. The target is not small anymore, not something you can hide in a jacket, but a vehicle valued at $28,000. chosen because it moves fast in resale markets. You study routines, timing, the quiet windows where no one is paying attention, convincing yourself this is precision, not risk. When the moment comes, everything feels slower, each movement deliberate, controlled, almost rehearsed in your head long before it happens. There is no thrill this time, only focus, only the steady awareness that one mistake would not be easy to walk away from. The engine starts, a low sound that feels louder than it should, and for a second you freeze, expecting something to interrupt you, but nothing does. You drive out into open streets, blending into traffic, just another car among thousands, just another night in a city that does not notice. By morning, the vehicle is gone from where it should be, and somewhere else entirely, stripped into value that turns into $12,500 in parts and transfers. You check your phone too often, watching for messages, for signs, for anything that might suggest you have been seen. What you do not realize is how much data trails behind you, how license plate readers, cameras, and timestamps begin to align without your knowledge. The near miss comes quietly. A patrol car slowing just a second too long at an intersection, a glance that lingers before moving on. That moment stays with you longer than anything else, not because something happened, but because it almost did. And for the first time, the silence does not feel like safety. It feels like something waiting. You convince yourself you are getting smarter when everything shifts indoors in January 2024, away from cameras you can see and into systems you barely understand. And that is how you enter. Level 4, Digital Fraud Operator. You are still Ethan Carter, sitting in a small apartment in Las Vegas, Nevada, the glow of your laptop replacing the noise of streets and stores. There is no running now, no quick exits, just quiet clicks and numbers moving across screens that feel detached from anything real. You learn fast, faster than you expected, watching how accounts can be accessed, how transactions can be split into amounts like $300 or $750 to avoid attention. The money arrives differently, not in your hands but in balances that update silently, growing to $8,200 in less than a week. It feels cleaner, almost invisible, like you have finally found a way to stay ahead without stepping outside. But the silence here is different, heavier, because you cannot see who is watching or how close they are. Alerts start small, a flagged login, a temporary freeze, messages that mention unusual activity in language that feels too calm to ignore. You tell yourself it is routine, just automated systems, nothing personal, nothing that leads back to you. Still, you start checking everything twice, clearing histories, switching accounts, chasing the idea of control that keeps slipping through your fingers. What you do not see is the pattern tightening again, this time in data, in timestamps, in connections that do not disappear, no matter how careful you think you are. The distance you thought would protect you begins to close, quietly, without warning. And when the first official notice appears on your screen, referencing an investigation you never saw coming, you realize this is no longer something you can step away from. It happens on a cold morning in April 2024, when the knock on your door in Las Vegas, Nevada does not sound urgent, just certain. And that is when everything collapses into Level 5, Felony Offender. You are Ethan Carter, standing still as voices identify themselves, calm and precise, leaving no space for confusion or denial. You open the door because you already know there is no version of this where you walk away. Not anymore. The room feels smaller as they step inside. Not aggressive, not loud, just methodical in a way that makes everything final. They list details you never thought anyone would connect. Transactions, locations, dates like March 2023, June 2023, September 2023, each one placed in front of you like pieces of a timeline you can no longer ignore. You hear numbers again. $480, $12,500, $8,200. But they do not feel like wins now. Just evidence stacked into something heavier than you expected. There is no argument that matters, no explanation that changes what has already been recorded, stored, and traced back to you. The drive to the station is quiet, the city outside moving as if nothing has changed, while everything for you already has. Inside, the process is slow and procedural. Fingerprints, questions, forms that reduce your story into categories and charges. You think about how it started, something small, something easy, something you told yourself would never go this far. Now it is all connected, every step leading here without ever feeling like it would. The realization does not come as panic, just a cold understanding that there was never a clean break between those levels, only a steady slide you chose not to see. And as the door closes behind you, you understand that the story people will hear is not about one moment, but about every decision that quietly built up to this one. You look back and realize nothing about it felt extreme when it was happening. Not the first item, not the first sale, not even the first big score. Each step felt contained, separate, manageable, like you could stop at any time. But reality does not work that way. Not in the United States. Not with systems designed to remember everything. What seemed invisible was always being recorded, stored, connected. The consequences were not sudden, they were patient. And in the end, the story is not about what you took, but how easily you became someone who kept going.